Hi, my name is Dan Zeilinger, and I have been a world-traveling full-time trad jazz musician for the past 40 years. Some of my most memorable performances were on the lawn of the Edinburgh Castle, at Imperial Palace in Japan, as well as TV shows and commercials across the world. I've met many people during my career and have spent many hours on stage and off with these musicians, talking about jazz, life, and more. Some are touring musicians, some are theme park warriors, and some are casual musicians who play on the weekends with friends. I think they all have stories worthy of a movie script, and through these interviews, I'll be sharing them with you. Hi there, this is Dan Zeilinger with Trad Jazz Today. My next guest is an old friend. He actually gave me clothes at one point in time. He's such a good friend. And a phenomenal trombone player and much better tuba player than I wish. And plays trad, plays shows, plays musicals, can sing and dance, and can probably make a pretty decent quiche Lorraine. But I haven't asked him that yet. See, there you go. And here he is, guys, Mr. Dan Marcus. Hi, Dan.
Hi. How you doing, Dan?
You remember giving me that jacket?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't have to change anything on it.
Nope, it was perfect. Size, the name, everything was perfect.
Yeah.
That's it.
So you're originally from Half Moon Bay.
Well, yeah, Oakland, but the Bay Area.
Oh,
I went to
that's
went to
what
high
it
school
says
in
on
Half
your
Moon
bio
Bay.
that I found.
There you go. Well, we don't talk about the Oakland part anymore.
From the hood.
That's right. Kaiser Oakland, when you were born, they gave you a little blankie and a beanie and a binky and a switchblade.
There you go. I cut you, man. Oh,
that's right.
That's okay. Sorry, Oakland. If there's any of you listening, it's all true.
Hey, Rachel Maddow and I were born in the same hospital. Just not on the same
I'm
day.
sorry.
Hey, it's all good. So.
And then you got shipped to Oregon.
Well, I know Washington. Yeah, I'm up by Seattle.
Oh no, but okay. I don't know why. The bio I found on you said that you claim Half Moon as your hometown.
Oh, Half Moon Bay, California. Yeah.
Okay.
Over on just south of San Francisco, and so I grew up in the Bay Area. My dad was a sax player, clarinet player, and trad player in the Bay Area. He was also a school teacher, taught psychology at a couple of colleges, and but he played in the Euphoria, the Magnolia bands, played all the time. And so he'd be playing like a Shakey's or a Straw Hat gig, and he'd pull me up on stage and say, "All right, listen to the first one, play on the second one." I was 8, and that's how it got started. That's how I earned my pizza and root beer.
Well, my word, that's Shakey's was a start for a lot of us.
Yeah, no doubt.
We've had a couple conversations over the years that I still remember to this day, and I'd like to continue sometime. One of them was the fact that you came up with a theory that all of us German tuba players were all on the same boat coming over.
I think so. There was actually a special. They had a special desk at Ellis Island for the German tuba players. So yeah, that's it.
I've mentioned that to several of the tuba players I've interviewed for this, and it cracks them up. That's good. Then once upon a time, I'm going to get to the rest of your history in a second, but I wanted to remind you of a conversation we had about visual. We were trying to come up with a way to visualize a jazz lead sheet in physical form.
Visualize a jazz lead sheet.
In other words, to represent changes in melodic line. We were talking. I think it came out of the idea. We looked at a brass sculpture of the introduction to of one of Louis' tunes. They had done a brass sculpture of it. And we were on the bus talking about, it wouldn't be cool if we could actually find a way to make a sculpture that would visually represent chords and melodic line.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've seen some things like that. Certainly there's fractal imagery that's done that's based on, actually my son he's a cellist and a composer. And and he has a friend who's a painter, and they'll get together and he'll play, and she'll paint, and they created some really interesting stuff together. It's very cool.
Well, so looking at what I have found on you, tell me what you're doing in Antarctica.
I just see that's what you get for believing Facebook. Hey, look, you know that guy.
I do. In fact, I'm going to be interviewing him Thursday, I think.
How's Ringy doing, man?
I don't know yet. I haven't talked to him.
Yeah.
I understand that he stopped playing.
Yeah. Well, haven't we all at this point?
Well, hey, yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, he's going to come on and do an interview. I'm going to try and ask him to not tell the stuff that's on his joke mailer.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're going to lose your G rating. You lose your R rating behind Ringy. So I loved when we were at SAC one time. I pulled some pictures up and I'm just popping them up. These are mostly Sacramento.
That's okay.
Yeah, 2000, 2001, and we were playing, and Ringy asked somebody who worked there, "Hey, so where's the head? The bathroom." And the guy pointed, and Ringy goes, without missing a beat, and he couldn't possibly see it, right? He says, "Hey, can you point a little louder?" So it's just, God.
Yeah, Bill, I interviewed Bill Dendle for one of these.
Oh, cool.
And he talked about one night he drove Bob home from a gig, and Bob said, "Why don't you come in the house for a minute? I want to show you something." Have you heard this story?
No.
And so they go up to the front door. Bob takes his key out and goes right in the keyhole with it, and opens the door and walks across the living room. Pitch dark, pitch black. And he goes to the next room, and Bill hears a drawer rustle and some papers rustling. And Bob turns around, walks up to Bill Dennell and says, "What do you think of this?" And Bill says, "Bob, the place is pitch dark. I can't." He goes, "Oh yeah, right. I forgot." And reaches over and turns on the light switch for him. But
well, I'll tell you a goofy story in line with that. Long before I played trad regularly, I was a road rat, and I worked with Ray Charles for 5 years, and we'd fly in his plane, and he liked to play chess. And he had the back third of the plane of the Vickers. It was a 57 Vickers Viscount that he called the love song too, and we all called the buzzard.
Oh my!
This thing was so freaking loud. I mean, it was so loud. It had 4 Rolls-Royce turbos on it, and it was so loud that half the airports in the United States wouldn't allow it to land because it exceeded the noise ordinances when it would take off. So anyway, so we're back in the back of the plane when she's screaming loud all the time, and we're playing, and Ray had a braille board, and he'd be like, he's feeling the pieces and working his way around. I'm an okay chess player, and so I'm watching his hands, right? I mean, like, oh, okay, he's thinking about his knight. Okay, that's cool. And at one point, he just stopped, and he goes, "Marcus, you're watching my hands, son. I can tell by your breathing." And I said, "My breathing? I'm getting tinnitus sitting back here, and you're listening to my breathing." And he just reaches up and he flips a switch, and it goes totally black in the back third of the plane. I'm sitting there in the dark, and a few minutes go by, and click, light goes back on. He goes, "All right, honey, your turn." And that's how we played. Every time we play, and I'd make my move, and I'd say done, and he'd go click, start feeling the board again. So
that's funny. And of course, you probably changed the pieces around too, but that's beside the point.
No, wouldn't want to do that. He was, after all, the employer. So
yeah. But, that must have been a lot of fun. How come you haven't written a book about some of these people that you played with?
Oh no. Shit, there's so many of those books out.
I don't know. I mean, not very many people has performed with the list of personalities you have here. Ella Fitzgerald, Aretha Franklin. By the way, I just interviewed Mike Vax, the Stan Kenton Orchestra.
Evil Eyes.
Bob Hope, Steve Allen, Natalie Cole, Stevie Wonder, The Temptations.
Any jobber works with all those guys. I mean,
it's great.
Vince Bartels. Not everybody's worked with Vince Bartels.
I have. Hi, Vince.
So, I just saw him. We hung out at his place when I drove down to California. We stayed out at Vincent Genet's pad, and it was great. Got to hang out with the cats. So what this is every Friday morning. It was tradition for a Sacramento festival. Vince and I and his dad Hank, and we'd get together at this Mexican restaurant in Old Town, and you had to be pretty drunk before 11 a.m. or you were doing it wrong. So that's us. It's Vince warming up here. I'm holding my watch up so you can see he made it under time. And these are all shots from the balcony of that place. Here's a heavy pitch. That's Vince and Hank, his dad. That's Jake Hanna, and that's Dutch. So
Jake Hanna.
Yeah. So that's a pretty heavy picture there.
I was in Palm Springs once, and Jake was playing with Bill Dendle. And
yeah.
we came down the hall, and Evan Christopher was with us then.
Yeah.
And he saw that the South Market Street was playing, and he jumps on stage, and he calls a tune nobody knew, and the thing crashed and burned. And he stands up and grabs the mic, looks at the audience, and says, "Either you like Picasso or you don't."
Perfect.
Wonderful.
This is a fun one about 20 years ago. So there's Gary Reynolds, right? Because I'd hang with the Fulton. If I wasn't, I started off with Uptown Lowdown, and then did the 10th Avenue thing, and then I would go down and play with Fulton Street. But this one year they hired me to put together. I have a trombone group called Trombonosaurus Rex.
Okay.
Book. And it's 5 or 6 bones and rhythm section, and that was always fun. So you got all these guys from different bands. You got let's see. Well, there's Gary there. This is that's Les Benedict.
I interviewed Les earlier too.
Cool. John Allred, Russ Smith, Paul Keller, right? Paul Keller and Vince, and then I think Bev Gunner was playing piano.
You couldn't find any talent.
Oh man, it was the best that book ever sounded. They just kept nailing the easier stuff, so I started pulling out like the Kurt Berg charts and some of the stuff that nobody plays. And so here's the gang right here.
Well, John's just phenomenal. I've done a bit of work with John.
Well, I had the misfortune of following John on the Woody Herman's band, and I went out. I'd laid off for about a year. I was doing a day gig, and I went out on Woody's band, and Allred had just left, and so the guy next to me said, when John was here, he'd play that higher, or he'd play that louder, or he'd play that better. And I said, yeah, I'm sure he did. So shut up.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking on one of these interviews to Eli Newberger.
Oh yeah.
And I told him, I said, I would play a pretty good solo at one of these festivals, and I come off stage, and some fan would inevitably come up to me and say, "Well, you're pretty good. Have you ever heard, have you ever heard Eli?" It was what the sentence was, and that I guess you kind of went through that with John on that band, huh?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, it's usually I really dig what you're trying to play. So. Anyway, that's enough of this stuff.
Of course, I met you when you came off of 10th Avenue. How long were you with Ed and those guys?
Oh, a couple, 3 years maybe. Here's an old shot from your stomping grounds, 1978.
Yeah.
All American college show band.
Was that the one? What year was that?
78.
Was that the year Don Neely was down there with them?
No.
Oh, I was just wondering because
not in this band anyway.
Oh, because he did a summer with a McDonald's. I'm not in the McDonald's band, but that band with a college band. A summer. Are we having signal disparity?
Oh, I don't know. Did I chirp out there or something?
Either that or you fell asleep. I'm not sure which one it was.
Oh, did it pause for a sec?
It's okay.
Sorry.
It happens on occasion with us.
All right. Well, there you go. We'll go to this then.
Oh.
I feel more at home already. Well, wait a minute. That's the wrong one. There we go.
Oh, what else is going to come up? That's what I want.
I've been zooming for a while, man. Starting to lose it. I mean, it's nothing new. I had
Speaking of
two of
which,
them earlier
Les
today.
Dorsch says hello.
Oh, Les. Wow. So Les was up here when 9/11 happened. He was up in Seattle and he got stuck, because they canceled all the stuff. So I brought Les over to the house, and my kid was he would have been 7, and Les gave him a really good grounding in orbital dynamics, and sciences. They had a great rap, man. It was really good for Max. So.
Yeah, he's pretty incredible. But one of the things I found out, excluding myself, mind you, that there's a real big connection between high tech, super intelligence, and trad jazz.
Well, yeah, we've got some guys up here that Stephen Wright and Phil Demery and Greg Kohler, and I'm going to miss some, but yeah. Well, of course, the one we know the most about, of course, was Joe Ashworth, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Joe invented that linear, I forget what it was, but it's where water, there's no turbulence.
Yeah.
And so the water just is in a steady stream, and those fountains that do that.
Well, he has some great stories. He was talking about something that they had that could fire projectiles through concrete blocks.
Oh, water.
And they had so they lined up a bunch of concrete blocks and shot these things up, and they just left them in the field. Or he talked about when ethanol first came out, and they tried to introduce it to Brazil, and the population just ended up getting drunk. So they had to make it taste awful. Yeah, but yeah, Joe's one of those guys.
Kind of like the current stage of the current hand sanitizer that's out there. We call
that's being made to beer plants. Yeah.
Yeah, orange tequila or skunk juice. Yeah.
So man, you played with some incredible people, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And done quite a few recordings.
Yeah.
As I'm scanning your sheets, is there anything in particular that pops out at you that has some great stories or that you're particularly proud of?
Well, when I moved up to Seattle, it wasn't to play. It was to start my own company, and I'd kind of had enough of playing from the Bay Area. It's like, okay, so I moved way up to Bellingham, and there really wasn't anything going on up there. And that lasted maybe 6 months, and I couldn't stand it anymore. And that's when Uptown happened. And that hadn't been my thing. I was a salsa player in the Bay Area, salsa, trombone, and big band and whatever. And then, but then Bert, gave me a tap. I forget how it was Art Horgan or somebody hooked us up, and that changed everything, And so I'm like, I had never played tuba really at all before that, and didn't own one or anything. And so I got a loaner for a while, and went to a rehearsal with Bert, and I started going ka-dunk, dunk, dunk, ka-dunk, dunk, ka-dunk, and Bert just like stopped everybody and turned around. He says, "Don't do that ka-dunk shit." Can I say that on?
That's fine.
All right. But Bert was a purist, man, and that was good. I mean, that was if you're gonna do it right, and to learn from somebody like Bert was the thing. So anyway, 5 years of that, it was a gas. I learned a ton.
When you were with Uptown Lowdown, you met a guy who actually I just interviewed right before you today, and he didn't think you would remember him, and that was Ray Cadd.
Ray Cadd?
Yeah, he was a tuba player with Titanic and Dan Comans and a bunch of the Southern California guys. He's now an Imagineer for Disney.
Oh, very cool.
But
he's a CAD designer.
I told him that. I told him I was going to be interviewing him right after him. He says, I doubt if he'll remember me, but I met him when he was with Bert Barr's band.
It's visual with me. Faces I do.
Oh, it's
Names,
okay.
not so much.
I just thought I'd
What's your
mention
name
that
again?
because he holds you in very high esteem.
Oh, very cool. Appreciate that.
So
There's no accounting for taste.
I say that every day with people who think that I had something to offer. By the way, I don't know if you know this. You probably do. But I was a trumpet player up until 72.
Oh, is that right?
And I did my time with a band called Espiritu de Caribe, which is a salsa band here in LA.
Yeah, right on.
So I can identify, man.
Yeah. Yeah, with growing up in a household with a West Coast traditional jazz pops, and listen to all the Lou Waters and Yerba Buena as a kid and live. I mean, my old man used to take me to Bimbos, to hear Murph Turkey and all those cats, and so I just kind of grew up with it. And so when it came around to the thing with Bert, it was good. It was kind of like going home, I mean, I played for, I would say one of my favorite bands I ever played with was Jake and the Abalone Stompers.
Okay, sure.
Do you remember them?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So Jake Stock, right? And
in fact, every so often his brother, I don't know if you know, Jay, his little brother is a clarinet player.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
And he comes and sits in at my Curly's thing that I play every so often. So so he's still playing and still up and running.
Yeah, I stay in touch with Jackson and Peter. But yeah, that was when I was in college in Santa Cruz. I started playing with Jake and playing the Catalyst, and that was an amazing band because he attracted. I mean, it was technically a Dixieland band, but it was sort of like we started a band up here that kind of was along those lines. We call it trad bop because it was a bebop band, it was a swing band playing trad tunes.
Okay, cool.
Right. I mean, it would have driven Bert to distraction, but
it was the opposite of the anachronic jazz band.
Oh, it was just straight up great musicianship. I mean, Jackie Kuhn and Freddie Higuera and Paul Mailing and Dale Mills and Jackson. Of course, I learned a ton from Jack. I mean,
I met Jackson, of course, because he was doing a stint with the Hot Frogs.
Oh yeah,
and I replaced Dave Wright in that band later on.
Oh yeah.
And then as we were talking, we both found out we both had original compositions on a bebop album. It was a non-Ted album. Can't remember the band leader's name right offhand. But anyway, Jackson and I both had tunes on this album, which I thought was odd. Great. He's a great arranger.
Oh, he is. He's a brilliant writer and and a cool guy. I mean, one time he rode his bike from Monterey to my house in Bellingham.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, think about that.
Oh, I know.
That's close to 2,000 miles.
Yeah, that's what would it be, about a 15-hour drive.
Yeah,
in a car.
Maybe not 2,000, but 1,300 miles anyway. Yeah, and he like pulls up, crash at the place, and build us a gate to keep my kid from dropping off the balcony. This is really early on. This is like 90, 95, but what a great cat. So.
How did you get hooked up with Ed Zimbrick?
Well, that it was. I think the beginning of it was when we were both bands, Uptown and 10th Avenue, were hired to play for Nobuhara's 25th. There's Mr. Nobuhara was a doctor. He's a orthopedic surgeon in Himeji, Japan, which is over by Kobe, and he's a jazz bass clarinet player. Right. But he's like this world renowned. He's got his own clinic, which is really a hospital. So he threw a party for the 25th anniversary of his clinic and invited 500 of his closest friends. He brought people from all over Asia and Southeast Asia. I sat across from the Surgeon General of Sri Lanka. Yeah, that's right. Surgeon General of Sri Lanka at this one lunch. And so it was crazy. And he brought two bands over and had these huge parties with, dinner for 500. And it was a great hang. And so that's kind of when I met Ed and those guys, and Gene and Matt. And I think it was Matt at that point.
Yeah,
And
Matt Mooney.
Yeah, just saw him in January. Yeah, we went and hung out with Matt and out in Phoenix, and that was kind of the last road trip. We did the big six, the Great Circle, where you go, Zion, Bryce, all that, and
Sure.
And we hung out in Arizona. Amazing that Matt Mooney doesn't have skin cancer. Of all the people that should not be living in Arizona, that redheaded, pale, freckled dude, just
Absolutely
had no business being down there. So anyway, that was it, and we kind of just struck up, and then Ed asked me if I wanted to jump ship, and he made me an offer. I mean, he made me a financial offer that was pretty good, and I did it. I changed shirts, as we say.
Well, that book was written for you, and those are some awfully big shoes to fill.
Oh, please.
Oh, come on. How many bands that have to go from Live and Let Die to Emperor Norton's Hunch?
Yeah. Only one, because all the rest of them decided it wasn't a great idea. So. No, I just have fun, man. I mean, it sounds a little odd, but I literally had never played horn bass before Uptown and then 10th, and since then I haven't played it. I mean, I play tuba gigs in the shows sometimes, but I hardly ever play a trad gig anymore. There aren't any.
You get it as an occasional double on pits?
Yeah.
Well,
I have a little what I call the, because I had the Rent-A-Wreck. You might remember the Rent-A-Wreck, that god awful Pan American, played great, looked like hell, and got
my
it for
favorite kind of horn.
Yeah, nobody steals them, that's for sure. And but now I've got this little Yamaha porta tuba. I call it a porta potty. It's a little baby. It's got a
a double C.
No, just B flat. Yeah.
Okay.
So
good.
Yeah. I wouldn't even know what to do with a C.
I like B flat better. Actually, I like.
Yeah.
I think double C's tend to have a really too small of a core sound wise for my liking.
Remember, were you on the I think it was San Jose or one of those where I got this tuba, I got this sousaphone. It was a King, called a King Jumbo or King, I forget what the number was, but it was this massive sousaphone, weighed 73 pounds dry weight, And I got it for $50 out of this basement of this old music store somewhere in Montana, and dragged the thing back, and it was too massive. I mean, you couldn't create,
You brought it to the festival trying to unload it on somebody.
Well, I brought it to the festival with a chair and just set it up and left it in this one room. And I put a little sign on it that said, if you want to play it, help yourself.
I was there and I tried.
And you could tell the guys that had played it because you'd see them walking around like, because, sousaphone shoulder, man, that thing just tear you up. Now, how that horn eventually left my sphere was, I was doing this crazy show in Seattle called Teatro Zanzani. And it was a circus tent, is a Spiegel tent gig, like a European circus. And the second run that we did, first run, was kind of straight up. But the second run, they said, it was just three of us in the band. They said, play anything you want, but we need you to play bass too. So, and I didn't play bass. So, okay, I've lied my way into this, all the way through this group. Yeah, you play bass? Oh yeah, just don't own one. So, but anyway, so I took that thing, they built me this kind of framework cage, and I had every horn I own up. There's about 100 brass instruments just hanging up all over the place. And we took that giant King and mounted it backwards so that it was bolted to these two 2-inch iron pipes with the valves here, and then just twisted the head around so the bell was sticking out through the framework. It was brilliant, and I just walk over to it and play it like that. And then when I left that gig, I just left the horn, just left it hanging there. Oh yeah.
Oh, shame on you.
Oh, I had all this room in my garage after that. It's great.
Yeah, I was trying to remember whose horn that was, and Howard Miata maybe thought it was one of his, but I just recall trying to pick up that horn at the festival. I didn't realize or remember who brought it.
That thing was insane. There was, I mean, you see the Clay Elum Eagles. Remember that Clay Elum Eagles march?
Yes.
There's Clay Elum, Washington up here was this coal area, and it had like the best Sousa band, the best concert band west of the Mississippi, and that's the one where King came out and wrote a march for. It wasn't Sousa, it was King. And these guys, you see these pictures of these guys playing those massive sousaphones, but you look at them, and these are coal miners. These guys are just slab. So and I can see the picture of the guy. And he's just holding this massive horn up like it's not like it's a piccolo. It's like, dude. So.
Speaking of marching bands or marches and Bert Barr up at the, what was it, the Mammoth Lakes Festival it was Sun Valley, where he used to put together a band from all the guys who were playing there and pass out marches. I don't know if you were ever a part of that.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
But I tell a story of when George Probert was up there with Misbehavin'. He brought an E-flat sopranino to that. And standing in front of him was two young girls playing alto horn from the Jack Daniels band. And they launched into the first tune, and George launches into his E-flat sopranino. And the two girls pick up their stands and move to the other side of the band. I was telling Les Benedict that story. He goes, "Oh yeah,
Yeah, an ill wind that no one blows good."
And I didn't realize at the time that George is actually really a sensitive guy. Because I walked up to him afterwards. I said, "George, I heard they're taking a hit out on your sopranino." And he never played it again. He never brought it to another gig.
Oh man.
So
yeah, it's like the Efer. We talk about the Efer in the shows, the E-flat clarinet, and there's a couple of shows that come through that have an E-flat double, and it's the career ender. People that don't really have the E-flat clarinet mastered, of which there are none, should not try to play it on a show.
It seems like every serious clarinet player has a match set of E-flat, B-flat, and the A.
Yeah.
But I doubt if any of them play the E-flat. You're right.
Oh man, those things squeak in the case. I mean, just I can count a couple of people who the last time I saw them, they were attempting to play the E-flat clarinet, and that was the last time I saw them.
Oh my!
End of gig.
Oh God, that's funny.
End of career.
So, what were you doing with the Stan Kenton band? Did you tour with them?
No, not Stan. With Woody.
Oh,
Woody Herman.
Okay,
yeah.
I saw Kenton on your resume. Is why I asked.
Oh, I played Kenton twice.
The tribute band, yeah.
No. I played Kenton. I played with Kenton. No, once. Sorry. It was one of his last gigs. I was in college at Northridge, and I was 18, and Stan came out and did a gig with us at Northridge, and he did a gig at what was that, Orange Coast College?
That's where that big jazz festival was. I was going there at the time.
Yeah. What was this? What was the guy's, not Menza, but what was the teacher's name there?
Doc Rutherford, Charles Rutherford.
Yeah, there's another guy too who writes great big band charts.
Oh, Tom Kubas was
Kubas, thanks. Yeah.
He actually taught at Golden
Coast.
West, but that's okay.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, so that was it. So, and I got paid for that gig, which technically makes me the youngest Kenton alumnus in the world.
I didn't realize you went to Northridge and worked there for a while.
Yeah. Yep, I did. I worked at Bartold's Music, and I didn't make it a full year at Northridge because that's when I went on the road. I got the gig with Ray when I was 20 and took off.
It's funny you talk about being a road rat. And I definitely became that with Ed's band. You
Mhm.
know, when
Sure.
I was with 10th Avenue, we were doing 40 flights a year.
Yep.
And
Yeah, he liked to stay busy,
yeah,
So,
and you learn how to live on the road, I tell you. But, it wasn't like doing a big band. That's a whole other creature.
oh no, but Ed's stuff. I mean, the tours that I got to do with Ed and Rosita, those were great, man. Those were a really good time. Rosita, I loved Rosita.
Of course, they
And
met right down here in Huntington Beach
is that right?
yeah,
Yeah.
she used to work at a store called Beach Music on Beach Boulevard here in Huntington Beach. And Ed tells me that's where they met. He was down here being a rock and roll trombone player at the time.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's where I went to high school. So it's funny how all of our paths cross without us ever meeting. It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Hang on, I want to find this pic. There's this picture I wanted to find. Where is it?
Yeah, I like Rosita too. Obviously, I'm half Filipino, so we had a thing going on there.
Remember Colleen?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That was my
Absolutely.
girlfriend. My girlfriend right there. But Harry and Colleen. Yeah. There we go. I'm on fire.
I don't want to set the world on fire.
There you go, a little fishing. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, there are some gigs starting to come back. Um, I got called for a few things, but I just it's too early. And when you think about it, playing in an enclosed environment, uh, where's all that air getting filtered?
Oh, absolutely. I've done a couple distance recording sessions for the local jazz clubs around here, and we do them outside in somebody's backyard, 6 feet apart from each other.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy.
We got called to do this gig with Danny Seraphin. It's a Chicago. It's the California Transit Authority, and it was earlier this month, but it eventually got postponed. But the trumpet player and I both bailed. And I said, man, I don't want to be in the HEPA filter horns. I mean, it's like we're the ones that are going to suck whatever it is in and take it out. So
Yep.
I'm not in any. I don't want to. Well, anyway, we're not going to talk about that here.
Oh, it's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
the reality we're all facing is that we don't have gigs.
Yeah.
And I understand that. It's really pretty devastating, not only to the musicians, of course, but to the venues and to the venue owners. And
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's just
I was
nuts.
just in touch with at one of the theaters that I work at up here at Paramount, and it's like, man, it's grim.
One of the things I do is teaching marching band. I've been had my foot in that pool for a while, and of course they just canceled the Rose Parade in Pasadena.
Yeah.
And
I saw that.
And people can't sit in football stadiums, and marching bands, it's awful. It's really difficult to do anything that I do for a living. In fact, impossible. And on top of it, I'm married to a nurse and a Starbucks manager. Anyway, the Starbucks manager is my daughter. And
I was going to say, you got me confused there. When did you move to Utah? So, big love.
Oh, so, I haven't done any recording for Donnie and Marie.
Yeah. Good.
Dan, this has been a blast.
Yeah, man.
I'm so glad that you did this, and I hope that someday we get to step on a stage together and, or nothing else, sit in a musician's lounge and pound some sandwiches and beers.
There you go.
And it's
right on,
so
Dan.
good to see you, and thank you for leaving 10th Avenue.
Well, I didn't really get, I started this. That's an interesting story, actually, because my son was getting to be like 3 or 4, and I was taking off every weekend, right? Because that's how Ed rolled. And I started taking some time off, and I said, dude, and Ed finally called. I still remember when he called me up. I was out in my garden. He goes, I want to end our thing. I said, understood. So
yeah,
it was cool. It was a great run while it happened, though.
kind of the same thing happened with me. My son got into his senior year in high school, and he was threatening to follow a girlfriend of his to Texas, and I'd been gone every weekend for years. And you know, when you play with Ed, of course, I was in Anaheim, and he would like to rehearse when he wasn't performing.
Yep.
So it was you know, a flight or a ride up to San Jose for me, up to Morgan Hill.
Morgan Hill.
And
Yep.
we'd put in the weekend, and then we'd end up taking those trips of his. And I finally just said, I got to be home. My kids are getting too old for me not to be around. And I understand totally. You know, it's kind of what
Made the
happened
right
to me
choice.
with that band.
Made the right choice.
I hope so.
Yeah, boss.
I'm not sure my kids would agree, but
Yeah. Yeah. You can always get another gig. You can't get other kids.
yeah, you're right.
You know?
You're right.
Except you, because you're in Utah.
Oh, stop that. I can just find them at Disneyland, but
There you go. Oh, wait a minute now.
been
All
cool
right,
talking to you, sir.
Yeah, man.
Let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely. I'll check in with you next time I'm down your way.
Please.
All right.
I don't know. I can give you I'll email you my phone number if you don't have it. In fact, I think it's
Yeah,
on
I'm
my
sure
Facebook. I'm actually one of those brave souls who still has their information on Facebook. So.
Holy moly. All right.
All right. We'll talk to
All
you
right,
later.
Danny. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye now.
Thank you all for watching Trad Jazz Today with Dan Zeilinger. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Videos come out every Wednesday and Friday.